All buildings are here, already here. We need to go beyond the text that we had, that we studied in the classroom of fiqh. We need to be able to study the modern economy and then be able to apply the Qur'an and the hadith to the understanding of the modern economy. And we need to do the same thing with the world of women. When we do that, we will then realize that that woman is a slave woman because of an attack launched by someone named Dajjal. I don't know whether you ever met this gentleman. Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Dajjal, the false Messiah, in whose time, said the Prophet ﷺ, there will be kathratul riba. How much riba? So much. I mean, this must have terrified the early Muslims when they heard it. That a time will come when you will not find a single person, not one, in all of mankind who will not be consuming riba. Not one who will not be consuming riba. And whoever claims that he is not consuming riba, verily the dust of riba would be on him. Verily the vapor of riba would reach him. They must have been terrified when they heard that. We will, inshallah, during this retreat, attempt to address that subject of riba. But tonight we simply say to you that it's because of riba that she is a slave woman. She's traveling on the ship, and all of mankind are on board that ship. But most of mankind are traveling in the whole of the ship as slaves. But there are those who have first-class tickets, and they have permanent first-class tickets on board that ship. And I didn't give this analogy. I am not the first to give this analogy of the world today, the economy. Fidel Castro gave it. Yes, Fidel Castro gave it. They're traveling on board the ship, permanent first-class tickets. They have bottled water, mineral water to drink. But down there she has to drink the filthy water, contaminated water, muddy water. These ones are eating organic food, the most expensive, huh? And those down there have the GM. And you know the GM comes with a price. It's not just that when you eat the GM, the genetically modified food, you're attempting to do a better job than the great engineer who engineered the food and who gave it its genetic composition so that the food could function not only nutritionally, but that the food can also function medicinally. Huh? Medicine, for example, to sustain the immune system. You don't have to go to the pharmacy every week to buy food for the immune system. No, it comes from the food that you eat. So when they tamper with the genetic composition of the food, now you get a bigger crop. And the farmer goes to get more money. So who's going to bother about organic farming when this one gives you more money? Bigger crop. But in the process of eating this food, the immune system grows weaker and weaker. And that has already happened. So you have to get more and more something called, you ever heard of it, antibiotics? So she's a slave woman. And she's a slave woman because of an attack launched by Dajjal. She's not entered into slavery only because of money being lent on interest, but also because of, oh, I didn't bring it, yeah? Anybody has a South African rand here you can lend me? I'm talking with a paper, not a gold coin. Yeah. I don't know whether you all have ever seen this. It's a piece of paper, and you put a picture on it. Ah, here we are. I don't know whether you've ever seen this. You take a piece of paper and you put a picture on it, and you put a number on it, and then you assign to it an entirely fictitious value. An entirely fictitious value. But before you use that word, fictitious value, you better go and do your homework first. You have to study international monetary economics before you make this statement, which I have done. Alhamdulillah. So you take a piece of paper, you put a picture, you put a number. You say abracadabra. And some mysteriously, it acquires a fictitious value. And with one piece of paper you can buy chicken, and with another piece of paper you can buy a BMW. I don't think the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ will ever be deceived into accepting this as paper. Certainly not the scholars of Islam. I don't think that day will ever come, would you? Do you? Will we ever descend to such a depth of blindness that we will accept? Huh? So she's a slave woman, and this is one of the reasons. All that they have to do is to keep on printing. Buy machines and keep on printing. And those donkeys out there will keep on asking for the paper. And they also start to print, you know, their paper. But those donkeys, they don't understand when they take a basket full of their paper to Manhattan, they can't even buy a cup of coffee. Because it's not hard currency. No. We have a certain chemical, we just dip it in the chemical, it becomes hard currency. And they don't have it, so there's not hard currency. Huh? It's fun, isn't it? Except on Judgment Day, when we have to answer for it. But not only is she a slave woman, but in addition to that, she gives birth to a baby. If it's a baby boy, no problem. The baby boy will not rule over her. Why? The baby boy will not rule over her. And تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا. The baby boy will not rule over her, but the baby girl will rule over her. Are women going to rule the world one day? Will this ever happen? How can women rule the world when Allah says in the Qur'an, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, that men have qawwam in relation to women, meaning not only maintaining, but also guarding and protecting. And so they have a daraja. That daraja, or that status, does not give them superiority in the sight of Allah, because the Prophet said that all of mankind will stand before Allah on Judgment Day as equal as the teeth of a comb. This also includes the Malaysian monarchy. So, if you are a man, you don't stand before Allah taller than a woman. No. And if you're a woman, you do not stand before Allah taller than a man. You all stand before Him as equal in His sight as are the teeth of a comb, said Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But a woman has an obligation to be obedient to her guardian. But the time will come when the world of women is going to be turned upside down to such an extent that the sun will rise from the west. They're going to be dressed and yet naked. They are the last people to go out to Dajjal, said the Prophet ﷺ. And a man will have to return to his home and tie down his wife and sister and daughter to save them from being deceived by Dajjal. So Dajjal attacks the world of women with an attack which will brainwash them so utterly and so thoroughly. You can talk from now until Judgment Day, you will not be able to impress your daughter. It will be like water falling off the back of a duck. So you'll have to tie her down, coercively restrain, to save her from the Dajjal. What is this attack that he's going to launch on women? You know, Allah created the male and female the way He created the night and day. He said that in Surah Al-Layl, didn't He? وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. He took an oath by the night, and by that which it shrouds so mysteriously. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى. And He took an oath by the day and its resplendent light, everything bright, nothing covered, nothing concealed, nothing mysterious about a man. All the mysteries with women, nothing mysterious about a man. وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. That in the same way that He created the night and the day, so too did He create the male and the female. There it is. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. And now comes the fourth verse, which is already there, plain and simple. Even if the fourth verse did not come, we'd already understood that you are functionally different. إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. You are functionally different. That Allah created the male and gave to the male certain functions. And He created the female and He gave her a biological constitution. And He gave her a physiological constitution because she is functionally different. But Dajjal comes along and attempts to take the night and make her day. So He said that women will be dressed like men. Have you seen her? With the jacket, and with the trousers, and with the tie. Have you seen her? 1400 years ago He said that this would happen. She is dressed like a man because she is now seeking to assume the functional role of men in society. That anything a man does, a woman should have the freedom to do it. But in the process, she is either compromising or neglecting or abandoning her functional role that Allah gave to her when Allah created her from a drop of sperm. So eventually, I don't know whether you know about a woman who was in Mr. Clinton's cabinet. I couldn't tell she was a woman by looking at the face. It was the face of a man. I hope she never listens to this lecture.